Welcome to Running Strong. My name is Will Frantz, and as of recording this, we are a couple weeks out from New Year's. And I don't know when you're listening to this, but that means that we are a couple weeks from people setting resolutions and trying to pursue new things or double down on things they've already been trying to do in the past. And a younger, let's say less informed version of myself, I think in the email I wrote on this topic, I called myself shittier, which I don't disagree with, but whatever. Wasn't a fan of New Year's resolutions. He used to say things like, if you really cared about whatever, you'd start whenever, right? And this is a conversation I've had with a bunch of teenagers who currently spend too much time in the gym. And I'm really happy they like it, but they don't do much else. Anyway, and I think it's one of those things that you say when you haven't really had a lot of big responsibilities put on you or handed to you yet, because you can spend 12, 14, 15 hours a day or a week doing whatever the hell you want to do, rather than taking care of kids and a dog and 50-hour work weeks and all this stuff. And when we do get caught up in taking care of kids and a dog and 50-hour work weeks, it can be really helpful to have a reset, to, instead of letting things spiral out of control, just hard stop it and start something new. And while for me, that doesn't necessarily align with the idea of January 1st or our very arbitrary calendar rolling over from the numbers ending in 5 to a number ending in 6, I do think a recognition that we're moving forward and things need to change is valuable. And for me, that might be June 12th or December 27th. For other people, it really helps to have it be a January 1st goal, and that's fine. Who gives a shit, right? If we are pursuing something that's valuable, I don't think it really matters how it starts as long as we get started. Now, one of the things that does get really tiring in working in a gym it's not necessarily the New Year's resolution. It's the predictable cycle where people come in and the gym is so busy for the first 3 weeks of January. And literally, like clockwork, the past 3 or 4 years I've been working in a gym, it just falls off a cliff in late January. And some of this comes as a result of the marketing and the schemes and the nonsense that we do in the fitness industry. Every January, we slash prices and offer accompaniment stuff and tie people into these long contracts, because gyms, very honestly, the large players, right? Most gyms are actually really small studios, and most of them want you to show up because they tend to care a lot. But the larger gyms that all of us know, they want you to sign up and never show up because you never use the equipment, you don't use the things, you don't incur repair costs. You pay them, and that's why they get you in the door with 2 months free in January. And then you end up in this recurring revenue segment and you forget it's there, and it's just cheap enough that you just let it keep happening. And then you never cancel it and they have you as a member, right? And that's the whole thing. And if we really cared in the fitness industry, I think we'd stop doing this price slashing thing. I also think we would stop trying to create problems for which we can provide novel solutions. We need less of the nothing's worked for you because you haven't tried this magic supplement made of unicorn dust and fairy wings. The thing is, we just every year we set unrealistic expectations, and some of this is in regards to outcomes, and some of this is a lot of it's more in regards to timelines. And we're just unwilling to do the necessary work that we don't in order to really make progress. And For me, I've been on a whole thing about this lately. If you've talked to me in person, I apologize for this, the 12th time you've heard this. But for me, it's stretching. It's always stretching. And I finally, I've tried to find stretching ways that I've enjoyed. And I find them for short stints of time, be it a yoga class that really fits my schedule with a teacher I like that then moves to a different state or whatever, or a system that fits because I only have to do it once a week or whatever. But at the end of the day, I don't really enjoy it. I've never really enjoyed it. I don't really enjoy the sensation that stretching provides, just like a lot of people don't enjoy the sensation that running provides or that weightlifting provides. I get it. We all have our jam of things that we enjoy doing. And for me, the one that I don't particularly like that would be really good for my health is trying to improve my flexibility. And I've been avoiding this forever, and I've been avoiding this in different ways forever. Literally as long as I can remember doing fitness things, and specifically with my hamstrings. They are tight. They have been tight as long as I can remember. And the thing is, due to some slightly shorter legs and slightly longer arms, I can put my hands on the ground. So I never really was overly apparent that it was as bad as it is. But if we're being honest, I can't sit up against a wall very comfortably with my legs out in front of me because of how tight my hamstrings are. And it makes my back do more work than it needs to be doing. And if I just stretch my hamstrings regularly for, 6 months to a year, and then did even less frequent maintenance work after that, I would have a lot fewer aches and pains. I'd be a lot more mobile, and I'd be able to do things better. And this is a talk I had to have with myself a few weeks ago. And as a result, I've been stretching my hamstrings, partially because I just made it easier, and partially because I set a timeline that doesn't make me immediately feel like a failure. When we look at training things, it is very easy to end up with a overly ambitious target. And sometimes that overly ambitious target is in regards to the goal itself. Sometimes that overly ambitious target is in regards to how long that goal might take. But no matter what, if the goal is overly ambitious, it is more likely for it to fail, and we are going to see a bigger rate of drop-off because we're not getting the positive reinforcement and positive feedback that we feel we deserve for our hard work, right? I don't really need to become a yoga master. I just need to lay on my back a few times a week, put a strap around my foot, and pull that thing for 2 minutes while trying to keep my sacrum on the ground. And if I do that for long enough, it will get better. And this is one of the things when I say people avoid the things they dislike. I'm speaking from personal experience. It's not a judgment on any of the people I've coached. It is an assessment of almost everyone I've coached, because it's an assessment of human nature. Most people tend to avoid the things they don't really enjoy. And some people, myself included, enjoy things that society feels are really valuable, like their work or lifting and strength training and running. But I think we often misconstrue this as an excessive amount of discipline, when for most people, it's just that their desires coincide with what society finds valuable. I've talked to powerlifters who would rather take endless vials of peptides and inject so many steroids than do basic movements that would help their elbow pain. Their elbow hurts because their scapula doesn't work and they can't put their arm behind their body. So if they just trained an ability to do dips weekly, they'd probably it would take a while, but they'd ultimately have less elbow pain. But they don't want to do that because it hurts and they feel weak because they can bench press 400 pounds, but they can barely dip their body weight because it hurts. So instead, they just keep injecting peptides into it. I know so many runners who would rather spend like a mortgage payment on new shoes than just like lift heavy enough to improve their glute strength. And for me, as I already said, I'd rather do weird, convoluted back exercises for the last like 6 months to a year than just stretch my damn hamstrings for 5 minutes. We avoid the things we dislike, and as a result, we stay stuck. And this is just how we are as humans. So we're approaching this target for 2026 that a lot of people are going to set. And when I talk with a lot of people, we set goals, or we talk about goals in regards to performance. That tends to be what I do. But there's also this underlying goal regarding like health and longevity. People want to live longer. They want to have a healthier life for the like longer amount of time they live. And we are seeing what some have referred to as a health crisis in like modern society. I live in the US. It's particularly bad here. We can get into that in a second. But for one, like I'm not, mild side tangent, but like I'm not convinced we inherently have a health crisis. I think it's possible. I think we could definitely be healthier. But some of it, like in the 60s, people lived to be around 70, and now like 60 or 70 years later, they live to be around 80. There is a like decent chance that once people get that old, we just see a like higher propensity for decline. I'm not saying it's inevitable, but I am saying that like we are all walking around in meat suits, like degrading meat suits. And if we add 10 years, which, I mean, if you do the math, it's like almost like 15%, right, of an age span. So we increase age lifespan by like over 15%. It's possible that we're just going to have some negative effects. Like there's a higher likelihood that cancer is going to come out. You have more likely or more like ability to develop atherosclerotic plaque. We're going to see things like diabetes increase. And some of that is just like you've had more time to develop these problems, so they're going to become more of a problem. And we're really good at keeping people alive, even if we're not that good at keeping people healthy. And so this is one of the reasons we might see some decline, right? And this is particularly true where we don't really invest in preventative healthcare. This isn't me being like going off the tirade that a lot of people talk about. Like, for one, like I think my job should probably be covered by whatever type of insurance we think we should have, because it helps people get stronger and actually prevents like disease down the line, but it's not. And it's not for whatever reason. And selfishly, that's probably good, because dealing with insurance would make me want to tear like my non-existent hair out. However, it probably should be from a like fundamental how we should govern society perspective, right? So that's a reason, that like collective of reasons why we might be seeing a decline in health and the elderly population. We live longer and we don't really invest in preventative maintenance. And that is always a possibility that we shouldn't forget. But let's also assume that that's not the case, right? Let's just pretend. Let's say we could all live to 95 and stay healthy. And I still don't understand like why people see our current relationship with health as a mystery. Many, many years ago, we did 3 things that have had an incredible effect on people's ability to move and move well. We have stopped moving. Instead of farming, we moved to desk jobs, right? Which led to less like accidental death, but humans are supposed to move and they get stuck in positions. And when we like spend all of our time in a very specific position, think of you being seated at a desk in a desk chair, kind of leaned back with your shoulders slightly hunched forward and like grabbing a mouse at a desk that isn't particularly a great height for you. We're going to end up with problems, right? So moving inside to desk jobs leads to less activity and movement. We went from like moving fence posts and herding cattle to moving mouses and answering emails. And as a result, we're going to end up with a higher likelihood of getting stuck in positions. And whenever we get stuck in positions, we tend to increase our likelihood of pain. So that's one. We also made, so then there's two subsets of that. Sorry. We ended up with our ability or lack of ability to move leads to a decrease in strength and decrease in variability of strength. It also leads to a decrease of cardiovascular work because we're sitting all day, so we don't ever like challenge ourselves cardiovascularly. So those are our like 1A and B, or we could call them 2, right? So our cardio has fallen off of a cliff. Our strength has fallen off of a cliff. We also made calorically dense food incredibly cheap. And I don't even care what's in the food, man. Like, this is not a debate about whatever the ingredients are. I think that is like so missing the forest for the trees. Typically, for, almost all of human history, save the last less than a century, if you wanted the caloric intake of a large pizza, you had to hunt or kill an animal. You had to like render a decent amount of fat. You had to roll and grow, dry, grind wheat, and then wait forever for that dough to rise. It takes days, or takes like hours. Sorry, not days. That's overstated. Then we roll it out, and then we throw a bunch of stuff onto said pizza. You had to make mozzarella, right? Like, think about the involvement in making a homemade, like from scratch, from the farm pizza. Nightmare. Now, you can buy a pizza for like $6. It's not going to be a great pizza, but it's still a pizza. It's like 2,000 calories for $6. You can go to Five Guys and fairly easily get a 2,500 calorie meal for like less than $15. And this is in the current economy where things are expensive. Calorically dense food, ingredients completely removed from it, is not that hard to find. In fact, calorically dense food is often cheaper than like quinoa and vegetables. So we have made, and also like some of these like calorically dense foods just aren't that filling. So if you ate 2,500 calories of quinoa and vegetables, you probably couldn't because you'd be so full. Whereas now, like, you could eat an entire tub of ice. A lot of people can eat an entire tub of ice cream, which is like 1,100 calories for a Ben and Jerry's, without thinking about it that much. And I guess, like, finally, we also conflated leanness with health. We decided that being thin is the same as being healthy. I don't know what number I'm at now. I know I said 3. I've lost track. But this is the problem, right? Because instead, we focus on dieting and calorie reduction, and we still continue to eat nutrient-poor food and not move. So even if we're thin, we can be what's like come to be referred to as skinny fat and be like very weak and have like almost no muscle mass. Or we can be thin and have some muscle mass, but have like zero cardiovascular fitness. And in summary, like, we're just not we don't have very good physical fitness, no matter what our shape is, right? Like, divorced from how we look, we just don't have very high levels of physical fitness. And this isn't that controversial. We've had to change some military, like, entrance exams. And then if you look at studies from like the 70s and 80s, the base fitness of these people, like before they put them through studies, is so much higher than like any trainer would see now. It just is. Like, someone who's trained a bunch of people, and trained people who care about athletic stuff, we just see a substantially lower baseline than what I would see from baseline things from studies from decades ago. So when we're looking at the side effects of this whole health thing, like, we don't move, we've made calorically dense food incredibly affordable, and we've conflated leanness with health. And as a result, we end up with these ingredients for a health crisis. And so when we're setting up goals for 2026, I think most people should do a couple things. One, we should set longer timelines. No matter what your goals are, we should probably expect them to take longer than you think they will take. Things happen, plateaus happen, mild injuries happen. We might have to take a step back. And especially if your goals are pretty substantial, like if you want to run a marathon in under 3:30, this shouldn't be a 3-month project. This should be like a multi-year project. If you have never back squatted a barbell before and you want to squat 300 pounds, you shouldn't try to do this in 3 months. You should try to do this in a couple years. From a skill perspective alone, that would be better. And also you'll see more consistent progress. You constantly won't be pressuring yourself, and you'll just get better feedback. You won't feel like you're under the gun. You'll actually do the work that's needed and be able to step back and make reassessments and do stuff. And you might actually develop a relationship with this kind of movement stuff that would lead to long-term changes to your routine and schedule. So not just the timeline thing. We should also set some goals that probably aren't about a number on a scale. Because these are the goals that I see fail over and over and over again. And even when they do succeed, they don't tend to last, and they tend to be divorced from the things that the other things that people say they care about. We get so obsessed with this number in this little glass scale that really, if we think about it, doesn't mean anything. And in order to make that number change, we make choices that don't have our best interests in mind. We don't do real cardiovascular training, and instead we walk an incline on a treadmill. And then we wonder why our VO2 max or velocity of VO2 max is garbage. We don't eat enough to fuel training, because when we eat enough, we see the number go up. No matter whether we see changes to our body or not, we get so focused on the number on the scale that we cut calories as soon as we see it go up, and then we lead to injuries, and we don't allow ourselves to build enough muscle mass to get stronger. If we focus on performance, then we will get a lot of the health effects that we want. If we focus on performance, we'll probably get a lot of the appearance stuff that we want. If we just try to get stronger and faster, and by faster, it doesn't necessarily mean running. It probably does, considering you're listening to this podcast, but it could mean on the bike. It could mean you're climbing stairs faster. It doesn't matter. But if we get stronger and faster, then we'll probably see a lot of the other changes you want. But if you focus on the other stuff, you probably won't, and it probably won't last. Longer timelines and performance-centered goals. Let's make that the push for 2026. And we'll probably get a lot of the things that we truly, truly want and that truly matter to us. And we'll get a lot of fewer of the negative side effects that we all say that we're trying to avoid. And yet keep causing with this habit of doing this shit every year.